A very good evening to one and all present here. I, Isha Ingle, take great pleasure in welcoming you all to Sanwad, an interaction with Acharya Prashant. Thank you so much, sir, for sparing your valuable time and gracing us with your presence. I extend a warm welcome to all the dignitaries present on and off the dais, professors and fellow ICTians. We mark every beginning with the lighting of the lamp so that we can spread the light and in it guide others too. We uphold this tradition here too. I would like to request Acharya Prashant ji, Honorable Registrar Professor R.R. Deshmukh, ESL Convener Professor Amit Pratap, and the Dean of Research and Innovation, Padmaja Devarajan ma'am, to come onto the stage and light the lamp as a tribute to Ma Saraswati, the goddess of knowledge. I now call upon our Honorable Registrar, Professor R.R. Deshmukh, to introduce Acharya Prashant ji with the bouquet.
Good evening. I can see overwhelming response. I can also see that you are very eager to hear Acharya Prashant ji. Actually, Acharya Prashant ji doesn't need any introduction. However, as a practice, I have to introduce you, sir. Acharya Prashant is an Indian Vedanta philosopher, environmentalist, and a social reformer. Acharya Prashant completed his education from IIT Delhi and IIM Ahmedabad. Acharya Prashant is an acclaimed Vedanta exegete and a national best-selling author of over 100 books. He is a powerful voice of social spiritual awakening in today's world. Today, tens of millions of people, especially the youth, get inspired daily by Acharya Prashant ji. Through his direct contact with people and through various internet-based channels, he continues to bring clarity to all. Acharya Prashant ji consistently topped in his class and received highest commendations and prizes possible to a student. Since his childhood, he has been reading books, often used to get lost in reading. He would skip meals and sleep. At the age of 10, he had read almost everything, including Upanishads, in the father's collection and was asking for more books to read. His father had extensive home library and entire library books he had read at the age of 10. Very commendable. He is the founder of a non-profit organization named Prashant Advait Foundation, PAF. He has worked as a management professional for a few years in a variety of industries. When he was 28 years old, he started Advait Life Education out of a mystical and spiritual urge with the goal of giving people an inner clarity missing from their lives. Around the age 30, Acharya Prashant ji started speaking publicly in the form of public discourses and followed by open discussions. Sir, it's an honor to welcome you to address our institute on behalf of ICT-Mumbai. We thank you for accepting our invitation, and without taking much time, I invite Acharya Prashant ji to interact with the audience. Thank you.
Pranam Acharya ji. My name is Devranjan. I am third year BTech student, and as we all know, India recently celebrated its 75 years of independence, and as a citizen, I see developed countries of US, UK, and those of in Europe, which are uh, better developed and better have a better income. This was driven through materialistic ways. How India, as a developing country, can use spirituality to become a developed country.
You see, that which you are calling as the materialistic approach, please sit, is nothing wrong actually. It's just that it might not be complete. But there is a difference, a big difference between something being wrong and something being incomplete. Right? Vedanta is very clear about it. Education must necessarily consist of two components. The first component, or the lower component, is called avidya or aparavidya. It's to do with the world, the material world. The thinkers, the seers said very clearly, if you do not know the material world, you will be condemned to fall in a deep place, deep and dark place. It is extremely important that you understand what this world that you experience through your senses is all about. Therefore, science, as we know it, is very important and very useful. You cannot just brush it away by calling it materialism. India suffered a lot because it did not pay adequate attention to material advancement. And the sages say both things. On one hand, they say if you ignore material education, you will suffer. And then they say if you ignore inner education, again you will suffer. But out of these two, and this is coming from a spiritual book, therefore it becomes all the more significant. They say out of these two kind of sufferers, the one who suffers due to absence of material education and the one who is ignorant about the inner self, one who does not have inner education, who is the one who suffers more? Guess what do the Upanishads say? They say the one who does not have material education, he suffers more. You'll go to a bad place if you do not have inner education, which you usually call as spiritual education. If you do not have that, you will go to a bad place. But if you do not have worldly knowledge, you will go to a worse place. And then the Upanishads say, if you have both, then you will never be afraid, you will never be conquered. You will be such a winner that even death will not be able to terrify you. You must have both. There is a lot that we need to learn from the West. Right? We have paid a price already in our history. When the British came here, with relatively small armies, they were able to defeat the various Indian armies. They fought a lot of battles here. In most of the battles, the British were outnumbered. Their armies were relatively smaller, and still they could win. There were many reasons, obviously. But one of the reasons was that their technology was more advanced. And if you lose the various battles of various kinds of freedom, what is now left to save? When freedom itself is lost, and freedom has many aspects, each of those aspects requires preservation, security, defense. A lot of that requires you to be materially strong. At the same time, we very well know that the West itself is suffering due to lack of inner knowledge, spiritual education. And because the West did not pay adequate attention to that aspect, they themselves have landed in a big mess. You look at the climate crisis today, 90% of the crisis is attributable to the developed Western first world. It could be said that lack of inner education is one of the important reasons why the West has become such a threat not only to itself but to the whole world, not only to mankind but to all the species that inhabit this planet. It is very difficult really to say which one is a bigger problem. Not to have material knowledge, or not to have knowledge of the self, knowledge of the mind, knowledge of who you really are from the inside. If you do not have material knowledge, you will fall prey to all kinds of superstitions. If you do not have inner knowledge, you will start considering yourself as the only thing that exists and matters, and that your body and everything that arises from the body, like thoughts and emotions, will be your masters then. It will be another kind of slavery. Do you see what happens? When you do not have knowledge of the world, then somebody from the world will arise and enslave you. And if you do not have knowledge of yourself, then your own evil tendencies will enslave you. In either case, you will be condemned to be a slave. Who wants to be a slave? Nobody. And which slavery is worst? To be enslaved by somebody outside of you, or to be your own slave? Both the slaveries are equally bad. Depending on the context, one could say one is worse than the other. But we do not want to choose here. We want to dismiss both these threats. Right? So our educational institutions must have both. On one hand, obviously you must have state-of-the-art teaching facilities, laboratories. Our teaching institutions should be focusing equally on research, and we should be generating papers and patents. At the same time, we should have humanities departments, very rich humanities departments, even in courses of professional education. And basics of philosophy, psychology. When I say philosophy, I definitely wish to include Indian philosophy, the various darshans that we had. So, you all as students of professional courses must be exposed to that as well. Right? However, by that I do not in any way wish to take away the importance of professional technical education. Science is extremely important. Mathematics, the various humanities, the arts, all of them are very, very important. Along with them, we must also have courses that deal with life. Courses that educate a young person in what it means to exist, what it means to relate. The very question of identity, the question of values, the question of the right relationship between the self and the world. There must be an entire department dedicated to this. If that is not there, there will be problems. The West is already facing those problems. We do not want to follow the West in this respect. We want to take the best from everywhere. We do not want to repeat somebody's mistakes, do we? Yes.